Hi YouTube, this is Care Bear. I'm posting my video of my interview. I had a few people who sent in some questions, and I had somebody who wrote in a letter that I'm going to actually read live, because there were some things that were discussed in the letter that I really thought would be beneficial to share. And so I do have a few questions, and I wanted to get right to that. So the first question was weight loss surgery harder than I thought it would be? Um, I think that there are kind of a couple of different aspects to that question, because the actual surgery itself can be seen as something that was really difficult, and then the since surgery, the time since then or the time after that, trying to kind of deal with the change that has taken place, it can be a different kind of difficult. So I kind of wanted to address both of those. My surgery was a little bit different because the surgeon actually found my diaphragm, I believe, was herniated, and so he was able to repair that, thankfully. I mean, that was a wonderful thing. That was one of the reasons why I was experiencing so much acid reflux. So it was nice that they were able to repair that. It made it very, very, very difficult for me to heavy breathe afterwards, and we had to do the aspirator, I think is what it was called, where you had to take the deep breaths in and deep breaths out, multiple times a day to keep our lungs really healthy. That was really hard for me to do. That was very painful in the beginning to do that. So that was one of the things that kind of I was not really prepared for. The other part of the pain for me, I was very blessed to have family take my kids, because I would not have been able, even with my husband there to help me, it would have been nearly impossible to have been able to try and juggle a 5.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old around, with not being able to lift anything and not really being able to get up quickly to do something. I mean, I had a TV tray next to me, with like my tea or my soup or my water or whatever, and if my son came up to try and grab anything, I was very limited in my mobility and my ability to keep him kind of away. So that was kind of difficult. I would recommend that if you have kids, that that not only do you try and get somebody to be there after the recoup period, but if you do have young children, they are taken care of in a situation where you don't really have to worry about them. I had a question for Tim. Somebody wrote in and asked him if he was afraid for me to have the weight loss surgery. And I did talk to him about the questions that were asked, and he said that he was terrified. We are both very strong Christians, and so he was really able to really lift up that anxiety, and really was feeling very faithful that God would take care of me, and that if I were to die on the operating table, it really was my time to go. Easier said than, I'm sure it's a lot easier to say that because everything went great. But that was one thing that we had talked about a lot ahead of time, was that, I really felt like I was kind of at a ticking time bomb as it was, unhealthy wise. And so for me, my choice could either be to possibly, or to put my life at risk in a way to have surgery to better my health, to take that risk, or to be in a situation where I was undoubtedly, without a doubt, I was at risk health-wise if I were to continue on the road that I had been. So that kind of was, for him, he was really very, very nervous, very afraid, and was very, very relieved when he finally did hear that I was out of surgery. So the next question was, it was also for Tim, has there been any negative or positive outcome to the weight loss surgery? And he said that he's very glad for me that I was able to have the surgery, because he really has seen a difference in me. He sees there's a happiness in me, and a satisfaction that I have, or pride that I take in myself, that's different now, that he can really he can really appreciate. The negative would be that our traditional, or the the way that we really socialized, he and I together, was through food. On more, on most occasions, if we had a date night, it revolved around food. If we went grocery shopping, obviously, that's going to revolve a lot around food. But it's, whenever we had a little extra money, whenever we had time together, it was always about, where do you want to go eat, what do you want to have for dinner tonight, and it was always revolving around food. And so that really has had to change, in a way, because he still has that desire to want to eat, or want to eat big portions, that kind of thing. Whereas for me, I don't see a financial benefit in it. I don't, to go out to a restaurant, it's difficult for me to really enjoy going. It's gotten better over the time, because I felt like, okay, well, I can actually order something that I can share with my kids, or that I know, okay, I just have to order something that can keep, so I can eat a small portion of it and then take the rest of it home, and it's not a waste of money. So that has changed. It's gotten better over the last couple of months, but it definitely has changed. So the other thing that I wanted to read, it was a letter that somebody had written, and I'm going to read it. Actually, I have my laptop here, so I'm just going to read this to you, because I thought it was really poignant. It had a lot of information. I could really kind of feel where this person was coming from, and it really opened my eyes to a different viewpoint. So here, I'm going to read it. Hi, Care Bear. I love the idea that you are doing an interview with the YouTube WLS community, and instead of a question, I wanted to share something with you that has affected me in a serious way. I watched the videos of your husband on the way to the hospital morning of surgery, and you both discussed his view of the surgery for you and for himself. I mentioned this only because I have found myself in a similar situation that you and your husband were in, but since my surgery, things have changed between us. Let me clarify that we are still so much in love, and our marriage is not having a rocky bit that some couples are told to expect after weight loss surgery. But the one thing I did not anticipate has been brought to light, and I wanted you to share it anonymously, please, with your viewers. After almost 100 pounds of weight loss, I was feeling on top of the world. I was having the time of my life, enjoying my newer, better body, my newer, better body I had hidden for so long. Although I was feeling good about myself, I was also still finding that I needed my husband's approval. I still wanted to hear him say he liked my new body. There was never any question that he loved me the way that I was before my surgery, but now I began to wonder if he didn't prefer me bigger, because the reassurance that he loved my new body never came. One night, when I was pleading with him to tell me why it was that he won't rejoice in my body, he broke down and told me, and this is in quotes, "I feel disgusted with who I am. How can you love me when I am what you hated about yourself? It was just much easier when we were both in the unhealthy boat together." All this time, I was worried that he didn't love me anymore. Not once did I stop to think that the changes that were happening to me were making him question my love for him. Of course, I reassured him that my love for him was for the man that he is, and not for the body that houses him, but it opened my eyes to an understanding that I had not even considered. So I felt like that was very significant in a lot of ways, because I feel like I'm constantly asking my husband, am I still good enough? Do you still like my body? And do you, all of these things. And, he told me recently how proud he was of me. But it wasn't until I read this that I thought maybe that's really hard for him to say, and I hadn't ever considered where his feelings might be coming from, because it doesn't matter to me. I mean, it's such a non-issue in my mind and in my heart as to what my husband's figure is, or his body shape is. I mean, I love him because he is a man, and I love him because he is my man, and because he is the one I believe God, handpicked for me. And so all of those things were not even an issue, and so I never even considered them, and to stop and think for a second that maybe that's pretty significant to him, you know, really kind of made me change my direction of my thinking a bit. So I felt like that was something that, you know, I have done so much research, and I had, you know, before my surgery and since then, and you know, I've given advice, or you know, I've asked for advice, but this has never been brought to my attention before, and I really felt like that was pretty important. So I hope that answers some questions for you guys. If you have any more, um, if you guys have any other questions, go ahead and, you know, please let me know, and I can definitely do, you know, either respond individually, or I can do another interview if that's something that you guys are interested in. Um, you know, the other thing that I know that I had mentioned at the very beginning, that the very first question was kind of a two-part, and I just realized now that I really only answered the first part of it, being the difficulty in pain-wise after surgery. But as to whether or not it was harder, the actual surgery was harder than I thought it would be. Um, it's a good question, because there had been times, especially really early on when I was in the you know, liquid stage or soft food stage, that kind of thing, where I really desired a hamburger, you know, a fast food hamburger with a lot of cheese, you know, and a lettuce, and just, I mean, it was like my mouth would salivate it, and I kind of would mourn, you know, we would drive by Carl's Jr., and I would be like, oh, Carl's Jr., I miss you most of all, you know. There were things that I really kind of were very sad with. But now that I can have that, first of all, bread really bothers me, and so a hamburger is kind of out of the question unless I just take a bite of the meat, or, you know, the toppings and that kind of stuff, which is fine. But literally, like, you know, 3 bites into a meal, I'm done. So, you know, to get a burger is really very only satisfying for a very short period of time, you know, even one bite of a hamburger. And then after that, it's kind of like I don't even feel good. It doesn't feel good. That space, I feel, has been wasted by something really unhealthy. So, you know, it's a learning process, but it's been a great learning process, and I've learned a lot about me and stuff. So that's really the most important thing, I think. So I think I'm out of time. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I look forward to hearing from you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.